Hey everybody, have a look at the MidTower Deluxe. Looks a little bit different now, doesn't it? Yes, the new hardware is installed, and I just got done plumbing up the water cooling system with fresh new tubing, and as you can see, it looks a bit different now. Instead of having tubing going way on around the back and up through the expansion slot to the water block, it instead goes up through the top of the case. You had to get there. As you see, I use a hole drill, a hole saw, cut 2 small holes right in the top of the machine. And get this, this is before I even started to disassemble everything. Yeah, I done this last night. And I still use the computer afterwards. Thanks to the red Solo cup and a vacuum cleaner, I got no metal shavings in places where they were not supposed to be. So, anyways, the new motherboard, new processor, new RAM, new video card, new SSD, it's all installed. And going to fill this up, and we'll let it run overnight just with the water pump going to make sure it's leak free. And when that's done, we can then proceed to actually start up the hardware, get Windows 10 installed, get up, and the long journey of getting everything reconfigured to the way it was. Yeah. So, as you may know, I've replaced the water pump. This is a water pump that sells on eBay for around $20 to $26. It is from China. It is simply known as the SC600. And it does seem to be a pretty decent pump for what, at least from what I've noticed with it already. I did do a little test with it earlier. The only real problem I had with this pump, replacing the Thermaltake P400, this pump right here, was the fittings, or the threads to where you thread in your fittings, weren't deep enough to thread in all the way down to where the O-rings were. So first I went out to AT&T Computers. Well, they were closed during the time, at least on Google it said they were open. So off to Lowe's I went, and of course Lowe's was pretty much a waste of time. They didn't really have what I was looking for. Although, of course, I bought the tubing from Lowe's, and these 90-degree fittings came from Lowe's as well. So, they do have some things for stuff like this. However, I primarily would just rely on them for tubing and simple staple items like that. And one thing that's interesting is, if you look at the top of the case, let me get back up here, you may see a little rust spot right here. This is where the reservoir used to sit. And at least for the past year or two, or maybe a little longer than that, I've had an issue with a slow leak. I knew for a fact it wasn't inside the computer, but I didn't see any leakage around the radiator or nothing like that. Now, to be honest, when I first plumbed this up back in 2011, this fitting here leaked a little bit, which my dad rebrazed just now, so it should be good. We'll know for sure once we leak test this thing. But turns out, this reservoir had a tiny hairline crack along through here. Had a tiny hairline crack. You might be able to see it a little bit, but I have since epoxied over it. I had some 5-minute epoxy sealant. I just brushed some on, and it's good as new. But yeah, that's crazy. This thing had a itty bitty hairline crack in the tank, and I'm just dumbfounded how it even actually cracked in the first place. And it hadn't been dropped or nothing like that. This is really weird. But anyways, as far as the pump goes, what I ended up doing was I was able to use the fittings that came off the P400. However, Instead of sealing with O-rings, I had to seal with Teflon tape, as you may see, the white stuff. And it seems to be doing this fine. Of course, as I mentioned, what I did is I just took a small piece of tubing between this fitting and that fitting, filled it up, and let it run for probably a couple hours. No problems. So now it's time to go and actually fill this thing up with coolant. And I did a video back in 2011 of filling this system up when I first done this water cooling system. However, I don't think the video was all that great. I mean, I didn't get the best view shots. I'm going to try to do a little better this time. But anyways, do it from, let's see, a little further ways back. Now, of course, at the new place here in the tech room, I have a little more room for a big tripod. So let the fun and games begin. So what I'm doing is I'm using this power supply that just puts out to a 4-pin Molex. It came with that old piece of crap ID USB adapter that I replaced. And I have a fan adapter plugged into that. It adapts to the 3-pin fan connector, which is what this water pump is using. And I have to say, this pump, they give you a lot of cable. This thing actually has enough cable to reach all the way down to the bottommost header on the motherboard. This motherboard has 2 headers for water pump. There's one on top and one on the bottom. It actually will reach the bottom one, but I'm going to use the top one. So as you see, the plumbing system the water cooling system is plumbed a bit differently now. So less tubing and hopefully less coolant needed to fill it. Okay. So it's all plugged in. Not plugged into power. You never want to run your pump dry. FYI, never ever run one of these dry. You will ruin it really quickly. Not from my own personal experience, but I know for a fact you shouldn't do it. I've never run this old thing dry and it still works. I'm just replacing it out of caution because it is all the way from 2006 with a ton of hours on it. I'm sure you may know the MidTower Deluxe, it runs 24/7, 365. Essentially, if the power is not out, chances are this computer is running. The coolant I'm using this time is clear PrimaChill PC Ice, low conductive coolant. And there's one thing you want to keep in mind with these non-conductive or low conductive coolants is don't depend on them to keep your hardware safe in the event that something fails in your cooling system. I do, however, like to use them as sort of a safeguard. Now, just FYI, as these coolants age, they pick up, as they interact with the metal in your system, like your radiator, your water block, and all that good stuff. They do over time get conductive, because it's not actually the water itself that's conductive. It's the minerals and stuff that's in the water that's conductive. So always keep that in mind. So just because you may have a system with non-conductive coolant, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be cautious with it and just be lax on making sure it's not leaking or things like that. It's just this stuff here is more of a safeguard. It's that just in case measure, really. Okay. Gonna fill her up. This is why I do like to have a big reservoir like this. It makes this a lot easier. Try to get all this gasket off of here. Should help make it a little bit easier to pour. Yeah, I decided to go clear this time because last time with the Fluid XP Plus, it just made a real freaking mess. Now I do have to step in front of the camera to fill this. So like I mentioned, I try to get you a good view, but sometimes I do have to step in front of and step in the way. Just fill it all the way up to the top. And carefully modulate power to your pump. Don't run it dry. Please keep that in mind. Do not run it dry. So just that quickly it sucked it down. So just have to keep going through the process of adding more. Fingers crossed this will be enough coolant. I know with the Fluid XP Plus it was really close last time. And as you see, the air is trying to escape. Like right now, we're still just filling up the radiator. This is going to be close. And as you see, we've almost got it filled up. Right now we're just letting the air bleed itself out. And while that's going, I'm going to grab me some paper towels. And I'll explain why when we come back. So we are still bleeding air out. Let me add some more coolant. Get up to the high. Yeah, guys, I told you it would be. This is gonna be close. Okay, so I got paper towels so that way I could place them under, for example, the CPU water block to make sure that we don't have any leaks. Because obviously if we get any coolant leaking out, it would collect on the paper towel. I'd rather collect on the paper towel than on my video card, my M.2 SSD. So what we have to do now is power cycle the pump a few times If you have a variable speed pump, that would be helpful, but this is a single speed. Okay, so I want to go ahead and reinstall the cap. Guys, this is really funny. Check this out. I don't know if you can see on camera or not. That's how much coolant we have left. Not much. There you go. You can see it probably better there. That's how much we have left. So the new loop is definitely using less coolant than the previous one. With the previous one, when I bought Fluid XP Plus for this, it was also the same size bottle, 32 fluid ounces or 1 quart. So the old system would use exactly 1 quart to get to just past the low mark. So we've definitely cut back on how much is needed to fill the system, which I think is a good thing. Let's put the cap on the reservoir. As I mentioned earlier, after I epoxied this reservoir, I leak checked it already, and of course I've leak checked the pump, and it's doing fine. So as far as filling the system again, I wanted to mention, to help get air bubbles out, cycle the pump a few times. Also, it helps to rock the system back and forth just a little bit, because that helps get any trapped air out. Because this radiator, as you may know, has a lot of different passageways on it. It's not like a car radiator. It's actually what this is. If you're new to this system, this is actually an old automotive AC evaporator, new old stock. It was actually in my grandpa's shed. I found it back in early 2011, and it literally still had the caps on the ends of it, so it had never been used before, but it had been sitting there for years. And I'll tell you, it's made a dang good radiator, that's for sure. But it has lots of different passageways on it. It has lots of different pathways for the coolant to take, and also for air to get lodged in. So this pump here does seem to be a lot more powerful than the previous pump that was on here. I can tell just by the way the reservoir looks at it. It's definitely moving more coolant through the system, and I'm thinking that will probably help out with temperatures as well. Because I'll be honest, with the Phenom 2 965 I had in here, and the crappy Thermaltake block that came with the original Big Water 735 system, the temps I got were not all that impressive. They were still pretty hot. And with the FX8120. So the FX8120, it's cool. Its sensors have always been very finicky. So I don't know how well the system performed with that. Now, as you know, I still have the Heat Killer 3.0 LC water block, and I have a small radiator. It's right here somewhere. It takes 120mm fan. This is the radiator that came off of the Big Water 735, and it got seldomly used. I'm not really the most impressed with it, but so I have that radiator, and I have a water block. All I need is a pump and reservoir to water cool the plexi. And I already had the tubing available. So it wouldn't take much to actually water cool the plexi, or a different machine, so I choose. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a little more coolant to get it back up to high. See, what's going to happen is over time air is going to work its way out. This will help get the air out of the system. Like I said, we have just a little bit of coolant left. Not much. Just a little bit. Get it right up to the high mark. Like there's literally just a small amount of coolant left in the bottle. That worked out perfectly, I think. As you see, some more air just worked its way out. It's going to do that for a while. And as long as you get your reservoir completely full, up to its full mark, I think it's a good idea to sort of rock the machine back and forth quite a bit to make sure we get that blasted air out. Because even down inside the water block, you know, air could find its way up in here, and that would seriously impact that water block's ability to cool your CPU. So let's go and take a moment to listen to how quiet this is. You may be wondering, with this $20-something pump, how quiet this machine is, or the water cooling system is. I'm going to shut down the plexi. I have to say, this is pretty impressive. I mean, the pump is anyway. Now, as far as reliability and longevity goes, well, we're going to find out. As you know, the MidTower Deluxe, it stays on all the time. Now, of course, I have the fans going in the living room from the wood stove burning, but see if you can actually hear this thing. It's a little bit audible, but not terribly loud. I'm impressed with it, I think. Not too shabby. So anyways, we're just going to let it run overnight. And we should be good to go. At least I think anyway. Only time will tell. Better be safe than sorry, especially after I spent, what is it, about $800 on this hardware. Last thing we need to do is fry it. So the water cool system is up and going on the new MidTower Deluxe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, I sure hope you guys enjoyed this video from Q Computer Channel. Remember to like the video, subscribe to Q Computer Channel for more updates, and remember to tick the bell so that we actually get notified of these updates. Did you know that I am also on a second channel that's
CubeComp MTDX.
over there? You'll find videos of bicycling, weather, elevators, and all sorts of other neat and interesting stuff. Feel free to subscribe to that channel as well. And again, I thank you for your support, and thanks for watching this video.